We've finally got a little bit of clarification on what the hell Tarantino's 10th and final movie may be. There's some interesting horror casting, and one of last year's most successful and I think most popular horror movies gets its sequel greenlit too. We also have our full review of Shazam, Fury of the Gods. Jeannine comes back at me with a fun game this week. All of it and more on today's show. Welcome to the madness. Hello everyone, welcome back to Monday Madness with Morgan and the Machine. Yay! I don't know why I just said yay. How are we? How are you? How am I? How are they?
You're excited to be here. Yes.
I think we are. I think we are excited to be here today. We may have to be having a little bit of a shorter show today than usual, but certainly still a lot of fun on Monday Madness that we like to do. My sign, I'm happy with my sign today, by the way, not that the audio only people can't obviously see my sign and never see my sign, but it does say hi Meagan, because obvious reasons really, for Shazam, Fury of the Gods, as yes, I don't need to say anymore. I don't think I need to say any more than that. I think it's a case of if you know, you know.
I think you're good.
Well done. Wink, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Not at all trying to get the attention of anybody like I was a couple of weeks ago with Tessa Thompson as well.
Yeah.
Oh, for God's sake. I don't know why I've turned into this. Why have I turned into this?
It's fine. You're doing okay.
It's good. It's good. It's all good. Good is good. Stop it. Stop it. Right, let's get into the show. This is going to take a different turn at the start of this.
It's okay. We like that here. That's where the madness comes in.
It is, but I was only digging myself a hole then, really. And not even digging myself a hole. Just, I was going down a path that the show shouldn't necessarily be, and people will just think I'm some sort of deviant. Not deviant. What am I trying to say?
I think saying things like that is what's going to make it worse. So
probably
just give up. Just quit. Just stop right now.
Oh dear.
You were doing okay. Welcome to the madness.
Welcome to the madness. Yes, I will ask the question because we do have a few things to get into before our main review on today's show. So, Jeannine.
Well, we have a couple interesting things up in the world news and upcoming projects. I was scrolling the Twitter as you do, and I saw Kyle Gallner, star of Smile, quote tweet an article talking about the greenlighting of a sequel to Smile, Smile 2. So, that movie was huge last year in kind of the horror genre. It did really well. So
it did do really well.
And it definitely
was very popular.
Yes, and it definitely is a story that leans into an easy continuation, as it's a pattern of things that continues to happen and pass from person to person. So definitely
you really
a story.
You really don't need to have the same central characters at all for this kind of thing.
No, so it's definitely like a Final Destination kind of situation almost. So I'd be down to see a Smile too. I did enjoy Smile. I thought it did some really creepy, unsettling things. It definitely was a movie that, you could think of maybe at least 5 other films that are like it, but still enjoyable. Great directing things in there. I think really solid performances. I think really taking the Descent of Madness type storyline and putting it in the hands of a character who is a therapist who deals with mental health was an interesting way to to set it apart. So I really enjoyed Smile. So I would be definitely interested to see more from that that story.
Absolutely. And all it needs for me is, like you said, a continuation of just the basic idea of the smile as a infestation, which it almost is, really, isn't it? It is that pattern of, if you see the smile, you get the smile yourself, and it's all kind of psychological.
Yeah.
It's that very weirdly unique creepy image. Like, yes, okay, there's creepy smiles in many horror movies, but this really just drew attention to this one specific thing. It was all about the creepiness of the smile itself. It Follows, if
Yeah.
It Follows was a smile and
Yeah.
not whatever people think It Follows is. A
Yeah.
lot of people seem to think It Follows is some sort of sexually transmitted disease, don't they? or a certain an embodiment of that. I think
Yes.
a lot
Yes.
of what It Follows is. Well, that's what it is, actually, isn't it? Because it's kind of people getting up to each other.
Yeah.
Up to each other, that's not a phrase. People getting busy with
With
getting
each other.
down with each other is what I was
Yes. And
supposed to be saying.
passing
And passing it on through that.
Yeah.
But this isn't that. This is literally just, if you're unfortunate enough to look at it,
Yeah.
then you get it. So really, it could be an endless series of horror movies.
Yeah, that just
really,
keeps kind of going on. As a
because
Final Destination kind of had their run of,
yeah,
several
but
films with different characters.
yeah, as long as your base style is kind of the same, the story can be absolutely anything. The characters can be absolutely anything, and you can deal with different themes in different movies.
Yeah.
Like this first one dealt with, own psychological trauma, the flipping of how a therapist becomes traumatized and has all these things
And
going on that nobody believes.
Yes, and then has to deal with face her own trauma that she kind of tries to
Yes, her
not
past.
deal with. Yeah.
And yes, okay, I think that's where the first Smile went a little bit out there and got a touch too silly for the rest of the movie, I think. It tonally changed once we got to that kind of her old house, and there was that giant mother monster creature, whatever that was about. I suppose, yes, but it really, I just think, should have been a hallucination of her mother, and that was that. It didn't need to turn into some sort of creature.
Thing. Yeah.
I think that would have been scarier, but that's what that movie dealt with, and I think as long as we don't go along those similar lines again in A Smile 2, but obviously keep the same pattern, the same mystery behind it, I think it'll work wherever you place it. It could be in any country, it could be with any group of people, from any walk of life. And I think that is the great thing about a concept like Smile. So yeah, I'm interested in this. I'm interested in this.
Yeah, me too.
I would definitely see it because I did like Smile.
Yes.
It was very popular. It did really well, and I think it was respected critically as well as a horror movie last year. It was a really good thing to see. So yes, I like this. Horror casting news as well, though, Jeannine, because we have Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein movie. Oh, another Frankenstein movie. When was the last time we had a Frankenstein movie? I feel like it was about 10 years ago. Frankenstein rings a bell. Victor Frankenstein rings a bell.
I think that might have been the last one.
Probably.
Victor Frankenstein.
But Guillermo's coming off. Guillermo seems to be always doing interesting things, regardless of what you may think of them. I mean, he doesn't make a lot, does he? Really, he doesn't have a lot of projects going on. He just has the things he incredibly dedicated to.
Yeah, which is
and
great.
Look, I mean, his last two movies have actually both won Oscars in their respective fields, right?
Yeah, I think Shape of Water.
Pinocchio has just won the Best Animated Oscar, and his one. I don't think there was one in between The Shape of Water and his Pinocchio that he made. I don't think there was. I think The Shape of Water was his movie
kind of his
before
next
that.
big project. Yeah, like I think he probably like produced on things and other things
Yes,
like that. But
definitely.
a project where he was kind of solely involved in the creative process. I think the last thing like that was probably Shape of Water. So
Yeah, and that obviously won Best Picture. It was a
Picture.
great
Yeah.
movie.
Yes, I loved it.
So this is very interesting because he's making a Frankenstein movie, and we have a few people in talks. It's not necessarily confirmed casting, but I just think these things are interesting. Now, Mia Goth is one of these people who is just, why not? Because she's
Yes.
flying in horror.
Yeah.
She's absolutely flying. And it would actually, I think, be quite interesting to see. I assume this is going to be a originally set, I mean, time-wise, Frankenstein movie, because it's Guillermo, he likes this kind of atmosphere. I highly doubt this is going to be any sort of modern retelling of Frankenstein. This is going to be very, very, 200 years ago.
Yeah.
And I think we're going to like that. So it'd be nice to see Mia Goth, I think, play a woman from that time, really, because she's kind of been more 20th century in the stuff we've mostly seen her in, or obviously modern present day.
Yeah.
But to play, perhaps a female lead in a Frankenstein movie, how will she? It'd be a different type of role for her. I don't think it will.
But I could see her fitting into that world. So
yeah, I don't think it'll give her as much kind of manic mania to do.
Yeah,
but it will
she's
give
so
her. It'll still give her drama to do. It'll still give her kind of an emotional intensity to perform, I think. And Guillermo's able to, I think, bring very different things out of people when he's putting them in his movies anyway.
Yeah.
And I like that about him. I think somewhat wonderfully, Oscar Isaac is in talks for this as well. And I believe he's in talks for Victor Frankenstein.
Oh, I like that.
Which I do think is great.
Yes.
Because he does have that ability to, he has a very intelligent face, I think. But full well that he can go crazy when he wants to. He can become obsessive when he wants to. We've seen that from him in the past.
I mean, the first movie I ever saw him in was the Zack Snyder's Sucker Punch movie, and he was the villain in that, and he was very kind of manic and intense and a little weird. So the first thing I ever saw him in, he was playing kind of weird and different. So he's since kind of become more mainstream, but that just speaks to his range. So I definitely could see him slipping into that role very easily.
And we have Andrew Garfield. Now, I'm not entirely certain about Andrew Garfield. I suppose it depends who these people are playing. Really, doesn't it? I also think, arguably, you could have Oscar Isaac playing the monster. And I think that, he would bring a certain power to it, a certain emotion to it that you do need with this kind of thing. I mean, you go all the way back to Karloff, and he just is able to bring so much emotion with so little to that because of his eyes, really, and his eyes, his movements. And Oscar Isaac's got very, very intense eyes. I also think that would be great. I mean, didn't De Niro play the monster as well in Kenneth Branagh's Frankenstein to success, really? And obviously, like, Christopher Lee plays a different type as well, but it's these kind of big people. And I suppose Oscar Isaac's not necessarily this big hulking figure. He's about 5'8" or something like that, isn't he? He's not like 6'4" like a Karloff or a Lee. But I think it would be interesting if you were to put him as the monster, or if you were to put him actually as Victor. I think would be.
Yeah, I think he would work both ways. So then where would that leave better. Andrew Garfield?
I don't know where that leaves Andrew Garfield, actually. I'm trying to doubly look now to see if there's any confirmation on
who's playing who.
On who's playing who, and I don't think there doesn't seem to be
any official.
It doesn't seem to be who's playing who, just that these people are in talks to be in it.
Okay.
Which does make me, if Andrew Garfield is there as well, it makes me feel like he might be a victor to Oscar Isaac's monster. Because I can't see Andrew Garfield being the monster.
No, really. But I could see him being the Doctor.
I also couldn't see Andrew Garfield being an Igor type either.
No, definitely not.
I could arguably see Oscar Isaac being an Igor type.
I could see him being several. Yeah.
But Andrew Garfield could make a good Victor Frankenstein as well. He could bring a certain craziness to it because he's quite lean and lanky, and I think he could be quite sciencey,
yeah.
shall we say. Maybe this is a residue of Peter Parker from 10 years ago.
Yeah.
But I feel like he could be quite sciencey as Victor Frankenstein. But that interests me. A Guillermo Frankenstein movie really does interest me. And this has been an idea, I think, from Guillermo for a many years.
Yes, and he definitely fits the vibe of those stories. So
he does. I mean, Crimson Peak, that's a gothic romance, and that's essentially what Frankenstein is. I mean, I know it's a sci-fi movie or a sci-fi story, really. At its core, the book is obsessive sci-fi as opposed to, it's the birth of sci-fi, really, as opposed to kind of traditional gothic.
Yeah.
Made more gothic by Universal's movies, obviously.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of what it's known for now, but I can only see this being a period piece. I can't see this being a contemporary movie just because of how Guillermo is. I think he prefers period.
He prefers that period aesthetic, I think. Yeah.
And I think it would work really well. I'm intrigued by these names being somewhat nearly attached to this project. It will be interesting to hear any confirmation on any of this, if and when we do get that.
Yeah, it's very exciting.
Very, very exciting. But I think what is exciting, and what is exciting, very exciting for a lot of people, is finally a little bit of clarity on Quentin Tarantino's 10th and supposedly final movie.
Yes.
For years and years, he's been saying 10
discussed,
movies, I'm only making 10 movies.
Yeah.
10 movies and I'm done, because if you ask certain people, he's already made 10 movies, but if you ask him, he hasn't.
Yeah.
Which is the one? Is it True Romance, the one that he doesn't count?
Or I think he maybe counts Kill Bill as one, and people.
Or does he count Kill Bill as one? Is that what happens?
I think that's what it is.
Let's figure it out.
Because he wrote True Romance.
Jackie Brown. Oh, that's right. Kill Bill as one. Death Proof. Inglourious Bastards. Django. Hateful Eight. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. It must be Kill Bill as one.
Yeah.
It must be. Which is fair enough. I like to think of Kill Bill as one as well, to be fair. There's been ideas that a Kill Bill 3 in the past would have been his final movie.
Yeah.
I think time has gone away from him on ever making a Kill Bill 3, to be honest with you.
It's possible. It's the idea of following Nikki, Vivica Fox's daughter, coming back to get revenge on the bride. So that could happen anytime. It's not like something like one of his original ideas of the Vega brothers.
Well, certainly, yes. Certainly.
Yeah, which
that
just
time
now
has gone way past then.
yes.
We can't be doing that, especially given the fact it was supposed to be set before Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs. That one, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Which is just an absurd thing to think about now. We're not trying to de-age people, please, no.
Oh, no.
But I don't think that's anywhere close to happening. But because his 10th movie and supposedly final movie seems to be titled The Movie Critic, or titled at the moment The Movie Critic, supposedly set in the 70s and supposedly perhaps a biopic of an actual influential movie critic who I have temporarily forgotten the name of, unfortunately. But this is interesting because we haven't really seen a biopic.
No.
This would be an adaptation of somebody's life by the sounds of it. And this is very un-Tarantino-like, given that
he has tapped into actual moments in history, but he does this really cool revisionist kind of vengeful end for the villain from actual history type situation. So to kind of really focus in on something real that is true to life fully is not something we've seen from him before. So
no, it almost put me off Inglourious Bastards for quite a while, the revisionist aspect of it, until I realised that I just need to get over myself. This was years ago. This was when it came out.
Yeah.
You know, I just need to get over myself and understand originality, and not everything has to just speak to actual history.
Yeah.
Because Inglourious Bastards, I think, is a great movie. Really, I think all of his movies are great movies. There is just something a little bit un-Tarantino-like about, a biopic, about the life of a real person. Because while his style borrows from all walks of movie making from all across the world, his stories are entirely original.
Yeah.
Incredibly original. His scripts are frighteningly original and unique.
Yeah.
And auteurist, he has his style. Nobody makes movies like him because he takes so many elements from so many different types of movies and melds them together
into his original story.
While having predominant influences. Death Proof being a sleazy 70s movie, but made in 2007.
Yeah.
The Hateful Eight and Django being revisionist westerns, but made in the early 2010s.
Yeah.
It's very, he has genres that he sticks to, but it's the stylistic nature of them. There's revisionist western styles in those westerns that he's made. There's also spaghetti western styles in those westerns. There's very traditional western influence, American westerns, John Ford movies, things like this in those westerns. There's a mishmash. There's also kung fu elements and samurai movie elements.
Yeah.
And weird French things and all these kind of things that he just
mush that he enjoys,
ridiculously passionate about.
Yeah.
That he molds into his movies.
So very interesting to see his type of style and aesthetic go into something like a biopic. So, like, how true is this biopic? Is it going to feel like a documentary style type thing? Like, I'm curious to see what that looks like for sure.
Pauline Kael, by the way, is the name of the critic. So yeah, it's a female lead. I think that's been absolutely clarified. It's a female lead, which has led a lot of people to believe that it may be a biopic of Pauline Kael, who was a LA Times critic, I think, in the 70s. Because it's set in 70s Los Angeles, this movie.
Yeah.
So perhaps it's also, you know what it'll end up being, though, don't you? They'll end up being like weird half cameos from people from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood in the movie. You can absolutely guarantee it, because this is probably 2 or 3 years after that movie.
That one was,
So,
and since we did have characters,
I think that's obvious.
Survive things, could definitely see some connections there.
We did. Maybe he'll be focusing on this critic assessing the life and times of whatever DiCaprio was called. Or I've forgotten what his name was now. Or Cliff Booth. Was it Cliff Booth?
Something like that, yeah.
Who Brad Pitt was? I don't know. I've forgotten. I don't know.
It's been a while since I've seen it.
But I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
It's very, very interesting.
This is a big deal. It's something that's been built up for years in terms of his career.
It's a massive deal.
Yeah. So I'm glad to get a little bit more detail about that.
I'm excited to hear more detail, but it is a massive, massive deal. Yeah. He's a ridiculously popular figure.
Yes.
Whatever you may think of him, I mean, some people really don't care for Tarantino, do they? I know he's got some odd opinions about things. I know he's also got a little bit of an annoying passion sometimes for certain things, where he just seems to get a bit high and mighty about certain things. And
yes, well, he has a podcast now, I do believe.
Oh my God, of course.
Rant and rave about those very things. So who doesn't have
he's every 14-year-old's. Yes. He's every 14-year-old's favourite director, isn't he? And he was certainly mine at the age of 14, so I have to admit to that.
Yes.
I would say he no longer is, because I think I've found a certain style of movie that I kind of am more fond of.
Yes.
Now, but I don't have think massive respect.
Yeah.
No, I always will, and I always have had massive respect for Tarantino, just because he is the preeminent movie fan filmmaker.
Yeah.
Really, isn't he? He in the early 90s, obviously, when indie cinema had another massive boom 20 years after its original boom, but to a far more mainstream degree this time.
Yeah.
He was the kind of shining light of that entire movement.
Yeah.
With those couple of movies, with Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, that just had so much influence from all these weird little movies that he loves put in them, and people recognize that, and people recognize more
the true style there. Yeah.
But it does take a lot of skill to take those original styles, take those scenes really from older movies, from small old movies, B-70s movies, and weird things like that. Like I said, kung fu movies.
Yeah.
That there's a lot of. I mean, Kill Bill is a Hong Kong revenge movie, but just with Uma Thurman instead.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of skill to take those original ideas, those original movies, bring the style to something different, and make it feel like your own
thing. Yeah, like definitely blaxploitation elements, obviously, in something like Jackie Brown,
certainly.
But really
down to the casting of the lead.
Yes, and crafting those familiar elements into a wholly original story. I think it's a really cool combination of things he's been able to do over the span of his career. So if this is the culmination of that, I'm really excited to see what he comes up with, and if it's going to be kind of completely different from anything he's done, but still kind of have the bones of his style. So yeah, I'm curious to find out more going through the next maybe few months or years, or
I hope it's not years.
Of what this movie's going to be. Well, I mean, it's been years already, so we'll see.
I mean, it has. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was 2019.
Yeah.
Actually, wasn't it? So I would hope maybe a release of 2025 release. I would hope for something like this. If we're getting first news of it now,
maybe go into production next year.
Yeah. I would think that's fair. I would hope so as well. I would hope so. Exciting.
Yay.
Well, it's time for our Let's Talk, and our Let's Talk this week, Jeannine, is our full spoiler review of Shazam! Fury of the Gods, the latest and not quite last installment into the DC universe, DC movie universe, before the big takeover movies actually start to be made.
Yeah.
Of which there is clarification that James Gunn will be directing that Superman Legacy movie that's supposedly will be coming out in 2025. You know, the kind of first thing in James Gunn's new and Peter Safran's new DC world that they are figuring out over
Yeah.
there, which is, I think, reasonable and exciting. Because
Yeah.
what will James Gunn, manic little James Gunn, bring to a Superman movie?
Yeah, I'm really curious. I
The
mean,
same vibe he brought to the Suicide Squad? Surely not.
or
A
Brightburn.
Superman movie? Or Brightburn? Yes. It'd be interesting. Be interesting to see his take on Superman,
Yeah.
because Superman's kind of not usually chaotic and kind of bloody and violent and funny, really. It's kind of more wholesome, tends to be
Yes, which we didn't
hopeful and
really.
hope.
We mostly just got depressed Superman. So
But that was heavy emotion, wasn't it, in Snyder's Superman? It was
yes.
heavy emotion that did become hopeful by the end, really, in Snyder's Justice League. It did. Even though he was wearing a black suit, it doesn't necessarily mean he was depressed in that movie when he was returned back to form.
Yeah.
I think he was quite smiley, really.
Yeah.
And willing to be a team player. But what Gunn will bring to Superman, I have no idea. But Shazam, Fury of the Gods. What do we think of this? What do we think of this, then?
I mean, definitely not breaking any new ground with this movie, but overall, I think it was fun. It had all your kind of basic structures of a movie like this, and I found myself having fun with it. Um, they try to pack a lot in there, so I don't think we get enough time with things that those things do deserve. But I like that we got more of things that we didn't, we were only kind of scratching the surface of in the last movie, and we get more time with those things here. So I appreciate getting even just a little bit more time with certain things and certain characters. Um, but I mean, overall, I had a good time. I enjoyed myself. I found it more enjoyable to watch than something like a Thor: Love and Thunder or even Ant-Man and the Wasp. So
I was going to compare. I think those two are fairly obvious movies to compare it to, but I
yeah,
think correct movies to compare it to. Because what I actually think Fury of the Gods does really, really well is feel quite dynamic. It feels like there's a lot of movement. I
yeah,
don't know if it's the way it's made. I don't know if it's kind of David F. Sandberg is a good director.
yeah,
He did well with the first Shazam. He's done well in his other movies. The first Shazam, I think, was more. I think it spoke to a more emotional element of kind of foster kids becoming something they perhaps never thought they would, because they've been rejected and all this business, beaten
yes.
down, and there's a lot of hope in that first Shazam movie.
And
This
creating a
one,
family, in a place you
yeah,
wouldn't expect to, or allowing yourself to be accepted by a new family, and that whole kind of aspect of, family does not have to be a blood relation to be your family types,
yeah.
type themes in there. So those were great.
That was the great thing about that first Shazam, while being a fairly typically structured superhero movie with okay, relatively unique humor, because I don't think other funny superhero movies have quite this style of humor, really. I think a lot of, for example, the Guardians of the Galaxy style humor, it's more kind of sarcastic, it's a little bit wittier than this. Is just kind of
A little
stupid
raunchy.
humor a lot of the
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
It's kind of immature humor. It doesn't always work.
Well, yeah, I think that's probably one of my biggest gripes is that um Zachary Levi is still very much playing like Shazam, Billy Batson as like very childlike and immature. Whereas
Yeah,
like a whole plot point is Billy's like about to turn 18. So I don't think Billy
he should
himself, and
be
even the
12
moments we do see Billy is acts like that, very immature and goofy and silly like that. So the correlation between Zachary Levi's performance and, the kid he's meant to be portraying is not really melding. I will say, Zachary Levi is very charming as the character, and I enjoy him as the character. But the
Yeah.
things he's doing and being very immature and kind of dumb, which is making him very kind of goofy and dumb, does not feel like where this kid would be at almost 18, you know?
I do agree with that. I do agree with that. I found some of the humor here genuinely quite funny. I thought some of it did land. I thought really some of it, unfortunately, just didn't land for
Yeah.
me. Which is a shame when you are billed as a humorous superhero movie.
Yeah.
You're kind of supposed to be entirely funny. What I really did like about it, though, is like what I've said before. I felt it was a really interestingly made movie, interesting visual movie. Let's compare it to a Thor: Love and Thunder and an Ant-Man Quantumania.
Yeah.
Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania. Particularly Thor: Love and Thunder, because Thor: Love and Thunder is dealing with gods and mythology. In this movie, is very much dealing with gods and mythology, like way more than the first movie did. And the first movie was, yes, there's magic, yes, there's wizards, but this is like Greek god situation that we're dealing with here. And I thought that the Greek god element, the godly deity element of Fury of the gods, was visually way better, handled way better, treated with more fun respect than Thor: Love and Thunder was.
Yes, you have these three
Way more.
sisters who are gods, and they're all kind of in conflict with each other. So, I liked getting to kind of sit in that world, and yeah, definitely more respect to uh the characterization of these gods as opposed to something like what Thor was doing.
But even, I mean, we're getting into a few spoilers here.
Yes, we will be.
In this review, but even when Lucy Liu plants that tree in the Phillies baseball
Yeah.
stadium, and all the mythical creatures come out
Come
of these
out. Yeah.
globular things, like they looked really good.
Well,
The
yeah, I think that
visuals
speaks to
looked
his,
really good.
I think that speaks to his kind of the director's horror, background and horror ideas really playing into just kind of the scariness of these creatures.
Yeah,
So I definitely liked that we got a moment in here for him to kind of play in a horror aspect a little bit, since that's kind of
yeah.
what he's done in the past.
And those harpies and the cyclops,
Hmm.
minotaurs, you get
Oh
griffins, you
yeah.
get the unicorns are a standout because the kind of the entire Shazam family ends up all riding these dark unicorns to
Yeah.
save the day, feeding them Skittles. How much
Skittles.
did Skittles pay this movie for this
Yes.
product placement?
It
It was
was like
outstanding.
yes, it was definitely a Skittles sponsored movie. It had
I
to
mean, for
be.
God's
Um,
sake, Darla says, "Taste
Chase
the
the
rainbow."
rainbow twice. She says it.
It's kind
Um,
of charming, though. Why not have very obvious Skittles product placement
right?
in this kind of movie? I didn't mind that at all, but I did love these mythical creatures in this big final kind of battle sequence. I
Yeah.
really, really did. Not only the kind of genuine terror you got from a lot of them because they're really scary to look at, but they've the CG of them, the effects of them felt so much better than what we've seen, I think, in recent Marvel movies.
Yeah.
That
I mean, quite a
I
bit of
think
the
the
effects, I
effects
will say.
generally, to
I mean,
me, felt better. It felt like a cleaner looking movie. It didn't feel like a fakey movie. There's a lot of times in Fury of the Gods we're in a godly realm, a mythical place, the rock of eternity with all these doors flying all over the place.
yeah, it's our little Harry
There's a lot of
Potter room.
there is a Harry Potter. I got excited. There was
I was
books flying
waiting for a
around.
I was waiting for a Harry Potter joke, and they didn't make one.
They didn't. I mean, it's
They
Warner Brothers. Why not?
yeah, they referenced Fast and the Furious, but not Harry Potter.
Strange, really.
Yeah.
But no, those books flying around all the place, the pen, Steve the pen
Steve.
that wrote on its own.
Yes.
That's very Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Where's the jokes? Where's the jokes?
Yes.
But no, we're dealing with all that kind of stuff. And the visual effects to me felt so much better than what I've seen in other recent superhero movies. Even Black Adam, which is DC as well, like the effects here
Yeah.
felt way better than the effects in Black Adam.
Yes, I mean there were scenes I felt like didn't look as great, and I think I think it was really saving the best kind of bits of CGI for the finale that had a
Possibly.
lot all over the place. So I did see some moments that didn't look great to me, but I think putting it where kind of it counted the most, where you're going to be dealing with the most kind of CGI stuff, I think of course makes sense. But
The
yeah,
big
overall
dragon
I could. Yes,
flying around.
overall I definitely think a lot of that looked better than other things we've seen in the superhero genre of recent time. So, yeah, um, I did like those kinds of set pieces in there for sure.
I was expecting to come out of this movie going, I didn't feel anything, because where's it going? It's not going anywhere. We know it's not.
And I
really
mean,
going anywhere.
we had some two kind of big. Guess this is very much these, these scenes now in things like we've got at the end of Black Adam, and now this. It definitely feels like, and I think probably what we're gonna get in the Flash with Ben Affleck.
Yeah,
It's very much let's give these characters a final moment. And I don't know now.
yeah.
Yes, and is it like, was it meant to feel that way, or is it just feeling that way because we know what's happening? Because like, was that originally the plan for those scenes? Because we
Who
get a
knows?
very similar scene to what happened at the end of Black Adam in this movie. Because yes, as we've now officially kind of gotten to spoilers, we do get Gal Gadot coming in here as Wonder Woman by the end, having a little moment.
Yes, I think it's more. It feels more reasonable to have Gal in this movie than it did, Henry Cavill in at the very end of Black Adam in the post credits, because Gal Gadot didn't fall off this franchise and entirely, did she? Henry
Yeah.
did. Henry was gone away and brought back for 3 seconds and one line at the end, in the end credits of that movie, that we all thought might have gone somewhere and ended up never ever going anywhere.
Yeah.
So it feels more reasonable to have Gal Gadot show up in this movie for the little scene she does show up in, and I kind of liked it, because we see him on this date with Wonder Woman earlier on in the movie in his dream.
Yeah.
And Billy Batson seems obsessed with Wonder Woman.
Yes, and we don't see her face. I'm like, are they going to do a Superman at lunch type situation?
Yeah, we don't
again?
want that.
Yeah, so I was kind of getting like, oh, you're really going to play that again? Like, that's just because we all know what's going on. Like, that's just going to look kind of like, really. So then when she actually did show up at the end, I thought, okay, this is kind of cool. And also, while they probably meant it just to be a cool cameo, it really turned into a, well, bye, gal, thank you for your time, which the Superman felt like. And I feel like the Batman appearance in Flash is going to be the same thing.
Yeah.
So, I mean, even though these cameos were not meant to kind of be that, I like that we're getting that to kind of really solidify the changing of the guard, and it kind of just plays out perfectly to what the actual kind of news of the future of DC looks like. So I think it's kind of funny.
It's kind of funny, but it's also kind of nice. It's kind of, because these characters and these actors have been pretty universally liked.
Yeah.
Like their movie. Like I don't think anybody really vehemently dislikes Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman. I think
no.
Nobody does. She's done a wonderful job as Wonder Woman.
Yes,
and
for sure.
I think for so many people who have grown up with Wonder Woman as Gal Gadot, she will be their Wonder Woman.
Yes.
So there's no reason. There's nothing within me when she showed up at the end of this movie that wasn't just going, yeah, this is great. Yay!
Yeah,
Oh, I'm so
yes.
happy about this. The
Yeah, it
the
was nice to see
movie
her.
the movie left me having enjoyed myself.
Yeah.
I really, really did. I thought, look, yes, okay, there's nothing structurally, story-wise unique here, but I think there is something stylistically quite unique about this movie when we've seen other superhero movies try and be mythological, and not do it in quite this style, not
Yeah.
do it in a way that feels as genuine, and I mean genuine as in has real respect for ancient Greek mythology,
Yeah.
and in quite a scary way as well,
Yeah, like,
because
I really liked that opening. I thought it was pretty entertaining and pretty scary and, um,
yeah,
like, a cool way to open this movie and set the stage for, like, what we're dealing with in terms of this villain. So, yeah, very formulaic, but I thought it was a cool thing to do, breaking into this museum, having kind of showcasing their abilities, and then kind of having everybody turn into stone and turn into statues. I think that's kind of a scary thing. So, literally, a lot of people kind of had brutal deaths in this movie, people getting
kind of
stabbed by
did.
things, people actually getting thrown into things, and so yeah, I feel like we actually saw some a little bit of brutality in this movie, which you don't really expect to see in one of the more um I don't know, kid friendly feeling superhero movies in the DC universe. Probably the most kind of kid friendly feeling one. uh so yeah, I liked setting up kind of the brutality of our villains, and really playing into the Greek god aspects of
Yeah,
those characters.
but it's almost what it's actually what I think these DC movies, as we'll likely refer to it in years to come, the pre-James Gunn DC universe, or whatever
Yeah.
it may be referred to as, what they have been, and I think it'd be wrong to say they have felt unique to one another. And I
Yeah.
mean that in a stylistic way. They haven't felt the reason the MCU has been so successful is because a lot of them feel have a very similar tone. Yes, okay, we can veer off to slightly different genres sometimes. Yes, okay, we can have more humor in one movie to the next, but everything does feel part of
Very
what.
the same thing. Yeah.
And for better or worse, as popular as as populism would have it, probably worse for the DC movies,
Yeah.
they have all felt different to one another.
Yeah.
They really, really have. Even Shazam from Shazam Fury of the Gods, I think Shazam is a personal kind of family comedy drama with a bit of mysticism, but this is a mythical movie.
Yes, we
This is
kind
a
of
movie about
sidelined the family
gods.
aspect. I mean, it's at its core, but it's definitely not focused on that as the first film was.
Yeah, but it's a dark movie at times while still having its humor in, but it's so very, 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 very different to the Suicide Squad.
Oh yes.
You know what I mean? It's so very, very, very different to Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Yeah.
It's even quite different to Black Adam, which is obviously the last thing we did get in this universe,
Yeah.
movie-wise.
Um
But that
uh,
felt historical. And
yeah.
that was a similar thing because it's still Shazam based. I mean, Black Adam is just dark Shazam,
Even though The Rock did not want to appear in this movie because
even
he
though
said
The
it would
Rock was a bit
tarnish
weird.
the name of Black Adam, which okay, but
Yeah, that's weird. I don't
yeah, very
really know
weird.
what he's talking about
Uh,
there.
yes. In terms of kind of the villains, I thought, I was enjoying them to a point, and then Lucy Liu became very one note, I think, by the end of
Little
it.
bit.
And wasn't really doing much to distinguish herself from your kind of generic villain. But overall, I mean, their motivations, I think, were clear, and we followed them, I think, in a solid way. We got some good fights with them, some good antagonistic moments. Liked seeing them kind of in fight with each other, um,
Yeah.
and
Helen Mirren does
their whole
play a
dynamic.
more
So
Helen Mirren does play a more interesting character than Lucy Liu does, I think,
yeah,
because she at first seems like the leader of
hmm
the three sisters,
yeah. So when that
and
turn
then
happens, yeah,
the turn happens with Lucy Liu where instead of just saving their world, Lucy Liu wants to now enact revenge on Earth or the human realm
yeah,
because of what they did to
her
the
world,
god realm.
yeah,
And Helen Mirren's just like, we don't need to do this. Let's just go home. We've got what we need now.
yeah.
Come on. And there's just no. And then Rachel Ziegler in the weirdest three sisters you've ever seen in your entire life, by the way. Helen Mirren in her 70s, Lucy Liu. I want to say Lucy Liu might be late 40s.
Yeah.
And then Rachel Ziegler at 23 or however old Rachel Ziegler is.
Yes, which they do actually have a commentary about that in the movie, like about the age
They
discrepancies
do.
there. Um, but yeah, I mean, I like
Humorous, really.
yes. So I like that they all kind of have different motivations, which all kind of conflict with each other, which made them a little bit interesting and uh didn't make them wholly kind of one note. So at least there was one kind of feature there with them that made them a little bit more interesting and made them,
Yeah.
stand out a little bit from a typical villain. But by the end, Lucy Liu does kind of become very formulaic and not much different from things we've seen before.
No, I still do think it works though, and it works. It works for
Yeah.
this kind of movie. It's not.
Yeah, I wouldn't
No,
call that a
I
bad thing. It was serviceable for what we needed it to be. It served the purpose for what it needed to be. So,
I
um,
actually think this is a better than average superhero movie. You know, it's not one of the greats. It's
no,
not wonderful, but I think it's
it's
more than
enjoyable.
enjoyable. And I felt more interest in this movie than the first Shazam. I'll be honest with you, I did.
Yeah,
I just think they're different movies, and because perhaps
and they have
I'm a
different things
little
to
bit
do. Yeah,
they have different things to do because I'm perhaps a little bit into weirdness and mythology, bringing that kind of craziness into there, and this does have more of David F. Sandberg's horror elements, like you said before, in it
yeah,
than I recall from the first one.
yeah,
I'm more into this movie, and I really like that. I like that I'm more into this movie
yeah.
because, especially when I was going into it thinking, oh, this is going to have to be a movie that we're talking about on the show, so I'm going to have to watch. And I'm now not feeling like it was that. I'm
Like a
feeling
chore to
like,
have to watch it.
yeah, I'm really,
Yeah.
I'm genuinely glad I watched that.
Yes, like, I will say I really did enjoy getting more time with the kids in their Shazam forms. While I would have
Yes,
liked,
absolutely.
and I would have liked to get to know them more, like, on a personal level, but, of kind of who they are, but I think we got a decent amount of that, and I think aside from Zachary Levi and those issues I mentioned, him not really feeling like he's as relational to Billy Batson. I think all of the other kids felt like there was an effort there to make them very much feel like their kid version.
Very
Um,
much so.
and
Very
I
much
loved
so.
that Freddie got so much more kind of time here, and he kind of has his own little arc of, really kind of I think if any character was going to get an ego from this, it would be him who, has been
Yeah.
bullied, who has felt like nothing most of his life. And so now he's imbued with this power where he can kind of really feel confident and that kind of consuming him a little bit. So, I mean,
Yeah.
the things that were happening with his character really made sense. Um,
He has his
and I
romance arc with Rachel Ziegler.
Yes, and the fact that his will is so strong in certain ways when he's being kind of tortured, he can hold out, when this dragon is supposed to kind of make you feel this crippling fear, he's able to fight against
Yeah.
that. So, like, just
Makes
his
some
ent
sort of Destiny's Child joke, doesn't he, at
yeah.
one point?
Yes. So kind of his determination in at his core, he's just very strong and the ego isn't everything with him. So I like that we got moments with him, and he had some of the funnest moments in the movie, the most comedic moments that landed really well. So I like that we got more with that character.
His
And him
comedy
kind of,
always does
yeah,
land well. I really do. I
yes,
think
yeah,
that both as his, Shazam form and as just his kid form.
yeah.
Everything he's doing always does land well comedically. I also think he's got the most dramatically emotional moments of this movie. It's
Yes,
almost Freddy the movie rather than,
then Shazam.
Billy
Yes,
Batson.
Billy and Shazam. So I mean, in the moments we did get with the family dynamic, I think worked really well. I mean, I can see, and like moments with them kind of being maybe a little bit tired of kind of this life, and wanting to do other things or focus on other things, especially the oldest sister. Like, she
Yeah.
obviously would want to have a life outside of that, because she was ready to go to college and do all these things, and um and all of that. So where the characters were, I think, felt really accurate to that. I liked the moments we did kind of get with the parents, and really getting some insight on, Mary giving Billy that insight that he didn't really have on
Yes.
his place in that, and him still being very tentative to completely let himself feel like this is a family, because he has these abandonment issues. So I like that he's still kind of grappling with that.
And I
So
like that that's still in this movie, because it was obviously a massive part of the first one.
yes, so it would make sense that he's still dealing with that, even though he's had kind of the security in this time, but he's still gonna kind of feel that fear. So I like that he got that really sweet moment with the mom, and like her also
Yeah.
feeling like, everyone says bye mom, and he like doesn't call her mom, and she kind of gets, has a little moment of being sad about that. So
And
then when
obviously
we
he does by the end in the big
yes. But
emotional,
yeah, when
let's
she
hug
does
it out.
wanna just when she wants to see him as Billy, like, she's like, "Show
Yeah.
me, I wanna see my boy, I wanna see my son," and then him like, "I love you, mom," and the tears, and like, I really got emotional at that moment. So, I like that those abandonment issues and those fears are still there, and this family really, really seeing him as a part of them, and him really finally being able to sit with that and feel comfortable with that and feel safe with that. I like that those elements were at least still in there in some way, especially kind of with what all was going on, that we still kind of had time with that, I think was great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And let's just say again, give a shout out to Meagan Good trying to play a 10-year-old.
Yes, because she's great. Like, I think she's the strongest one in terms of her and Freddie, I think, are the strongest ones in terms of really matching their Shazam character to their child
Yes,
character.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Because how she's so peppy all the time.
Yeah, she's so
I don't
cute.
know.
Yeah.
It's strange. Just giving a shout out there again. I don't
Yes,
think
of
she
course.
gets
Hi, Megan. Yes.
hi Megan, as my sign says today. I don't think she doesn't get as much to do as kind of Billy and Freddie and the older sister who I've forgotten the name of.
Mary.
Mary. They're the kind of big three,
Well,
and
because
then
I
there's
mean,
the
even in the last
others.
film, I want to say Mary's Shazam was played by a different actor as well. But now in this one, I guess Mary's
Yes,
just old enough that she's
that
playing
she's the same.
yeah, she's playing her
Which
Shazam
threw me
self as
off a
well.
little bit.
Yeah, because like in the first one, I was like, I kind of had to look something. I thought she changed. And she did change. I think she was a different character, maybe because she wasn't old enough, but now that she is old enough, like, it
Yeah.
looks like her. I don't know how that works. But yeah. And I like the idea of that, Billy does kind of want to keep them together and work together as a team and a family, but obviously there are moments where they're going to kind of want to branch off and do their own things, and
Yeah.
and and him just I didn't like, again, him just being so immature and constantly having to ask Mary to help him figure things out, and them really kind of leaning on him not really having the wisdom aspect.
But like
But
you say, this is only when he's Shazam. When
yes,
he's Billy, he actually he doesn't feel like
this
a
dumb, kind
goofy,
of immature and goofy.
stupid kid.
Yes. So I mean, the fact that they address it, though, that like you know, you don't seem to have this wisdom and you seem to lean on Mary for everything. So I like that they do kind of address it, which saves it a little bit.
I suppose.
Yes, and by the end, I think the wizard also, which we have to kind of get into the
Oh,
wizard
yes.
and his
Jaime
characters,
Hansu has so much more to do here, and I
and
love
he's
it.
being very silly and comedic. Like, were you okay with that, or did you find it kind of a little too silly?
No, do you know what I didn't? I do like what he was doing. He fits the movie. I liked him in the first one, but he's only in a little bit of
Yes.
that
So
first movie.
I mean
And
the
I
tone that we're
suppose
getting into.
he's also in a little bit of Black Adam as well, isn't he?
Oh yeah.
Because he's the same wizard who gives
Yeah.
all the Shazam powers out, and this is what he's doing.
Yeah.
But he seems to be having an awful lot of fun here. And I
Yeah.
like that
Okay.
because there's clearly power there, but there's clearly also a fondness for the Shazam family that he develops. So
Yeah.
it makes sense to me that he kind of becomes a little bit more casual and a little
By
bit
the end, yeah.
more funny. By the end, he's dressed like some sort of pimp.
Yeah,
I
he
don't know
got it.
what he was trying
He
to
got a
pull
nice
off
little
there, but he had a
shave.
feather in his hat.
He's very fancy, very fancy.
A
Um,
big coat, and he looked like
and
he
I liked
belonged in Superfly.
yes. And I liked that he did, you know, he was the one to give Billy kind of his big motivational speech and remind him why he chose him because, you know, when he first finds out that Billy's kind of the reason that the sisters have come back and all this is
Yeah,
happening, he did kind of tear him down a little bit and say, you know, I shouldn't have chosen you because look how irresponsible you're being and all of this. So
you are a
him kind
waste
of
of
being able to
space.
come, yes, and him being able to come back and actually, you know, say, no, I did make the right decision. I did make the right choice by picking you. I think, you know, made for a very full circle moment and kind of brought some more seriousness back to him after he was kind of silly for most of the movie.
Yeah, but I
Um,
think he does hit that balance well for me. In this
yeah,
movie, for me, he
yeah,
does hit that balance
I
well. You
think
still
so.
feel you feel the seriousness of him as a character because he's obviously ridiculously powerful.
Yes.
But I like that he's able to play along with the humor. I feel like the humor would have failed had, for example, he not understood any of the humor that the Shazam
Oh, because
family
of
were
like
kind
the
of
whatever era he's
doing.
from, and he would have just not understood
Yes,
things. Yeah.
it would have felt like like the way Drax has become
Yeah.
in the Guardians of the Galaxy movies, where here he is again, not understanding
Understanding, not getting the
sarcasm.
reference. Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's just it's a little bit old now. Move
Yes.
on, and I
Yes.
think
It's
the
either
wizard was
like,
able to
yeah.
develop.
When you have a character who's not of this time, it's like you either don't want to go too far in them like making topical references because then you're like, how do they know about these things? Or going too far on the end of them not understanding anything of this world. So I
Yeah,
like that there was a balance, even with the God sisters as well.
yeah,
Also
definitely.
they also struck the balance of not knowing too much, but not also like knowing everything, and trying to play that for comedy. Um,
I really did think it was balanced really well. I don't think it's. I think it's just changed its spark from the first movie. I think the first movie was really good at depicting what it did depict.
yeah,
Kid in the foster system finding his voice almost.
yeah,
Um, I think this one was a very, very different movie that also hit what it was trying to really, really well.
yeah.
It makes you wish it was carrying on because we get mid and post credit scenes.
Yes, which are related to things that James Gunn is involved in. So, I mean, if they didn't want it to continue, why not just cut those scenes? But then also, so that's what has me thinking like, are you keeping those
Is there
scenes
something?
because is there going to be something more? And Zach Levi has very much been like, I don't know what the future holds for this character. If this movie does
Maybe
well,
he is.
maybe. Because yeah,
Maybe
he
he is
had.
carrying on.
I mean, James Gunn's wife is in this movie, so
That is true.
and I think his name's Steve Agee. They both are kind of Waller people who are all instrumental in the Peacemaker show.
It was also produced by Peter Safran.
Yes. So, I mean, and then we get, Mark Strong at the end as well, kind of in the same place we found him in the last movie.
Talking to that worm creature.
Yes. So, I mean, it feels like if they really weren't going to do anything with that, would they have kept those scenes in? Of like the Justice Society and all of that.
Because they knew at this point.
Yes.
They knew about the takeover.
And these are just end scenes that they could have just cut off, right? Easily just cut out. It wasn't a scene in the movie. It wouldn't have to be edited in kind of the center of the movie. It's literally end credit scenes. So if it wasn't going to continue, I'm curious to see why, they would have left those in.
And I would be interested to see Shazam actually in the Justice Society and then have some sort of situation where he feels like he's so much better than the Justice Society. What is the Justice Society? I shouldn't be lounging around with Atom Smasher and Cyclone. And
because I really liked those characters as well. That was probably my favorite part of Black Adam.
100% it was the best part of Black Adam. Absolutely it was. So yeah, that would be interesting, but obviously make an entire movie about Shazam being in the Justice Society with those people, but wanting the entire time to just be with Wonder Woman again.
Right? Yeah, like I want to go to the League.
Justice Group.
Yes. Yes. But yeah, I mean, having, characters integral to James Gunn's stories in the DC universe is interesting. To have them there and really speaks to, okay, where is this gonna go? So yeah, I mean, overall, I enjoyed myself. I had fun. Like I said, definitely no new ground breaking with this movie, very formulaic to the superhero genre, but a fun revisit with these characters, getting a little more time with them, funny, not everything lands, but still just had a good time with it. And it did make me kind of want to see more. So overall, I enjoyed Shazam, Fury of the Gods.
As did I. I know a few people have been a little bit disappointed by it. But we have to give our honest opinions, I think, and I think we're pretty similar there.
Yes.
Which is nice.
Better than some recent superhero fare we've gotten recently. Not perfect by any means. Not doing anything different, but for the story that it's telling, I think a serviceable story and a fun watch.
Yeah, and those movies that you've just alluded to are getting people excited because of what's coming after them. So why wouldn't this movie, that I think we think it is actually a better movie, why wouldn't this get you excited for something that would come after, even if we know that nothing's coming after?
Yeah.
It just makes sense to me. It just makes sense to me. But no, I had a lot of fun with it. I felt a lot of smart movie making, a lot of interesting movie making. Like I said, stylistically very different. And just, I think this has always been the case with these DC movies, is that they've been able to feel very unique, for better or worse, like I said before.
Yes.
They feel so much more different to what the populace thinks of as superhero movie.
Yeah.
Story-wise, maybe not, but style-wise, yes.
Yeah.
And I think this follows that as well. There's too much uniqueness in the way this movie's made that it just feels light years away in terms of impressive direction, impressive visual flair, than a Quantumania felt. As much as we enjoyed what went on in that movie, it just was visually, to me, a little bit uninteresting. And this movie just wasn't. It was very visually interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
I agree.
There we go. Shazam, Fury of the Gods.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Applause for Shazam, Fury of the Gods. I think we have to say it's a hell of a lot better than Black Adam as well, and Dwayne Johnson won't like that.
Yeah.
But I really did prefer.
I did enjoy it. I had fun watching it. So.
Yes. Interesting. I think we do have a game we want to finish off with, don't we?
Yes. So this is technically a drinking game. So
A
time
drinking
for
game.
fun
I
and
do have a
games.
drink. It is not an
that kind of
alcoholic drink, but I do have one.
But this is a drinking game. Some friends got me, but it's just a quotes game. So you roll
Okay.
this little die. It tells you what there's 3 quotes on the card. So just I
I
think it
don't
has.
have a dice.
Well, I'm gonna roll the dice because it's
Oh,
gonna
you're
tell
gonna.
me which quote to give you. So each card
Okay.
has 3 quotes on them. I'll roll the dice. It has a 1, 2, 3, or a dealer's choice. So whatever I
Okay.
roll, I pick either one of the 3 quotes that it tells me, or I just pick whichever quote I want from a movie, and you have to guess what the quote is from.
Okay.
So I
Well,
think
let's
probably
do some of these then.
the drinking element would have probably been you having to drink if you missed the quote or something, but we will just do the can you guess this quote?
I see. Okay. Well, fun games for today. This is how we're doing the fun games at the minute, isn't it? We're kind of taking turns giving each other games for a little bit.
Yes. Okay, I got dealer's choice, so I get to pick whatever is on the card.
How many are we doing, or are we just going with the flow?
We'll just go with the flow. Maybe we'll do
like
5 or so.
Okay.
Okay, so I got dealer's choice. Okay, I'll pick this one. Good, because I'd find you. Ha.
Well, that could be anything. That could be from any movie. Good, because I'll find you. Ha. I really don't. I have no concept of that. Could be any movie. That could be any movie where somebody's hiding from somebody else or running away from somebody else. That's not a unique quote. What is this? What was that supposed to be?
It was from Wedding Crashers.
Oh yes, a movie I've obviously seen.
Yes.
Oh dear.
Okay.
Well, let's have something that I've actually seen.
Okay, so I got number 3.
Right.
So quote number 3 on the card is, "We got no food, we got no jobs. Our pets' heads are falling off."
Oh. No, it wasn't what I was thinking of. I don't know what I was thinking it was. We've got no food, we've got no jobs, our pets' heads are falling off. Are these all silly movies, Jeannine? Is there any nice old movies in this that I actually know something about? Pets' heads falling off. Oh, what would be a movie where someone's pet's heads fall off? Some sort of family horror movie. Something Addams Family. No, not Addams Family. Casper the Ghost. No. Something of that vibe. Is it something of that vibe?
I mean, from that era.
Ooh. Yeah, go on. I don't know. I'm not going to be good at this.
It is from Dumb and Dumber.
Okay. Yeah, again, it's not really Morgan's style of movie, is it?
Have you seen Dumb and Dumber?
No, and I don't want to. It's a deeply aggravating movie. The only thing I have seen from it is that ridiculous noise.
Oh my God.
Which I can't be doing with.
Such a snob, Morgan.
I'm not a snob. I like silly movies, but not obnoxious movies.
Okay. You'll definitely get this one. I spun a 1, so quote number 1 on the card. You ever dance with the devil in the pale moonlight?
No, we like this one. Yes, that's Batman 89. We like that. The most nonsense quote, but so memorable, but it makes no sense whatsoever.
Okay, dealer's choice. All right. Wait, you don't understand. If you don't play, there's no music. If there's no music, they don't dance. If they don't dance, they don't kiss and fall in love, and I'm history.
Oh, well, that'll be Back to the Future then.
Yes.
Let's all remember the fact that the cover of Earth Angel in Back to the Future by Marvin Berry and the Starlighters, I think they're called, is actually way better than the original recording of Earth Angel by the Penguins from the mid-60s. It is. It's objectively a better sounding version of that song.
Fair enough.
It really is. I do think it is.
I got Dealer's Choice, and I'll even do an impression to help you figure it out.
No. Is it an Edward G. Robinson impression?
I mean, that's my best one.
It is. That and Katharine Hepburn are easily your best impressions.
Do your worst, Mr. Hughes.
I wonder who this is. Mr. Hughes. Oh, it'll be it'll be The Aviator then, won't it? Because it's
yes.
Kate Blanchett playing Katharine Hepburn. Yes.
In The Aviator.
Isn't it fun? Isn't it fun when you realise that Katharine Hepburn won 4 Oscars and also Kate Blanchett won an Oscar for playing Katharine Hepburn?
Katharine Hepburn, yeah.
So has Katharine Hepburn actually won 5 Oscars?
I know. Somebody was actually kind of debating that.
Possibly.
But she also didn't care and didn't go to any ceremony.
No, she didn't.
All right, Dealer's Choice again.
Yes.
I
feel like
get in
this.
my belly.
Oh, wait. We like that, actually. See, this is a silly movie that I do like. Now, which one will it be? Is it the first one?
No, it encompasses the whole.
Oh, it encompasses. So it's Austin Powers then.
Yes, it's Austin Powers in parentheses trilogy. So.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fair enough. Which one's he in? I feel like he's not in the first one.
No, I believe he's in the second one.
Yeah.
He shows up in the second one. The Spy Who Shagged Me. Okay.
Which everybody always, every American always thinks that's a perfectly reasonable thing to say, but you know full well what that word means in Britain.
Yes. Okay, so this will be the last one.
Oh, the last one. Okay.
Okay, no, we have to do one more after this.
Okay. Why?
Because I rolled on 1, so it's quote 1, which is this one time at band camp.
Oh yes, we like this. That is, I suppose, the American Pie series, because it's not just the first one. Yes, we like that. This is the kind of nonsense movie that I do like.
Okay, this will be the last one.
Okay.
Let's roll this dice. Okay, 2, quote number 2. Oh my god.
Yeah.
Okay, well you're gonna end on a win here, buddy.
Good. I hope so. I hope you've not just jinxed me.
I mean, I don't even know if I should just sing it.
You could sing it.
Come with me. You'll be the world of your imagination.
Oh yes. Oh yes. It just works, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It fits so well that that's the end of the game. When it is obviously Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, our mutual favorite movie.
Yes. Would you like to hear the other 2 quotes from that movie?
Go on then.
Quote number 1 was, "It makes everlasting gobstoppers." And the third quote was, "We are the music makers and the dreamers of dreams."
That's a good quote.
Right?
I like that.
Yes.
Although, of course, my favourite quote from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory is, "You get nothing. You lose."
Good day,
sir.
You stole fizzy lifting drinks. Yes. You know, mine is Rachmaninoff.
Yes, yours is Rachmaninoff. Yes, of course it is.
Or nuts.
No, or nuts. Yeah. What business you in, Salt?
Nuts. So good.
Oh dear. There's so many.
Yeah,
from Willy Wonka, really, that are great quotes. Yes, we like that quotes game, although you have to know the movie, don't you, to really get them. You're not gonna get too many quotes from movies you've not seen, unless they're really, really famous ones.
Yes.
There we go. For this episode of Monday Madness, Jeannine, we did say it would be a little bit of a shorter show today, but we've certainly had a lot of fun. It is not the only show we have on this podcast feed or thing we have on this YouTube channel, though, is it?
No, of course, on this very channel, the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel, we have some fun things. We do watch-alongs, retro trailer reactions. Morgan is a wonderful physical media collector, so he will share his physical media movie hauls with you guys and some fun videos. I've been doing a bunch of fun Scream content, review videos, ranking videos. I actually have a big ranking video planned, and it all encompassing the new Scream 6. We have our reviews, all kinds of fun stuff. So please like, share, subscribe the It's Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel to also find Monday Madness there. But you can also find Monday Madness on the It's a Wonderful podcast feed every Monday. Of course, every Wednesday we have our show Morgan Hasn't Seen, where I force Morgan to watch things he hasn't seen. We are talking fighting movies right now because of the release of Creed 3. So we've had fun talking some good boxing movies, some silly action fighting movies. So check that series out. Morgan Hasn't Seen every Wednesday on the It's a Wonderful Podcast feed. And of course, every Friday on the podcast feed, we have our flagship show, It's a Wonderful Podcast, where we give love to classic films. So every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we have you covered on the podcast feed. And anytime we have you covered on the It's a Wonderful Podcast YouTube channel. So check them out.
That is very true. Subscribe, ding the notification bell on this channel. There have been links scrolling at the bottom of the screen if you are watching for all our things, such as the Patreon and donation links that are in the description if you would like to support us that way. We can't do what we do without that generous support, and we love all our supporters so very dearly. We really, really do. If you would like to join them, follow those links that are in the description of this episode. Anchor, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Podcasts, Castbox, Amazon Music, and everywhere else for Monday Madness. Morgan Hasn't Seen, and It's a Wonderful Podcast, the main show where we celebrate old movies and we show love to them and discover new ones, because that's what we love to do the most here on It's a Wonderful Podcast. You can, of course, also find the show on Twitter at It's a Wonderful One. Find me on Twitter at The Purple Dawn with a 3 instead of the E in there, because, Jeannine,
3 is the magic number.
On Instagram and TikTok at The Purple Dawn. All your Shazam stuff is where.
You can find me at Jeannine Devine _ on Twitter, Jeannine Devine on Instagram and TikTok. If you want to get any merch for any of our shows, the link has been scrolling at the bottom below, or check the description, or just search It's a Wonderful Podcast on teespring.com. We have some fun designs over there. All the logos for our shows, including some fun Stranger Things designs, so please check it out. And if you want to purchase any of my art in print form, you can find that at my Big Cartel shop, g9design.bigcartel.com.
Yes, I will end the show by saying again, hi, Meagan. It's me.
Shoot your shot. Shoot your shot, baby.
That's all I have to say. That's all I have to say. There is only one thing left to do, Jeannine. Please, in whatever bizarre impression you so choose.
3, 2, 1.
Bye.